Welcome back to another edition of Post Media's Ottawa Senators panel. I'm Ken Warren. With me today, Don Brennan from Post Media and special guest Ian Mendez from Bell Media. Guys, we got through training camp. There's some confidence with the Senators because they won the last two games of the preseason. We look at this roster, perhaps a couple of surprises here at the end of training camp. To me, MAXIME LAJOIE and Christian JAROS being on the team is a bit of a surprise. Don?
I don't think they'll both be here when the season starts. I think they're going to go with 7 defensemen. I mean, that makes most sense. And MAXIME LAJOIE, who was really good last year, BOUCHER told us, but we saw for ourselves, to me has been the, like you said, the surprise of camp. And I think he's going to stick around. And I think he's going to be one of the top 6. And Ben Harpur will be the 7th. I think JAROS, he needs to go down to the minors, and last year was his first year in North American hockey. He needs another one.
It's interesting that Donnie says that Ben Harpur will be the 7th defenseman. I think a lot of people will say when they look at training camp, Ben Harpur was the 8th best defenseman, and in a week in which you sent Zach Smith down on, or you tried to on waivers for performance reasons, why wouldn't you do the same thing with Ben Harpur? What's the fear here, guys, with Ben Harpur being put on waivers? Is Ben Harpur going to be claimed by Carolina and then come back to haunt you? I mean, look, I think Ben Harpur is a really good defenseman. I think he can be a 6th defenseman in the NHL, but his skill set is not one that he's going to come back and haunt you. Like when they put Mike Hoffman on waivers a couple of years ago, I thought, this guy could come back and haunt you. I don't know why I'm using the word haunt so much. Maybe it's because it's October and it's Halloween, but there's no way Ben Harpur comes back and haunts this organization if he's claimed off waivers.
I actually think he might have been the 9th best defenseman in camp if you include Christian Wolanin, who was sent down a little bit earlier. You know, there's going to be holes on the back end. To me, I think even looking at the first pairing of Cody Ceci and Thomas CHABOT, I mean, speak about haunt, that might scare people if that's your first pairing. What do you guys think of the rest of the lineup? I think there's some excitement perhaps with Brady Tkachuk and Alex Formenton with what they could possibly bring, but can they survive this team up front, everywhere in the lineup, Matt Duchene and Mark Stone, are they going to be able to carry this team?
Well, I think it's going to be a young lineup, obviously, and an exciting, it'll be a fast lineup. You know, everybody's negative, everybody's down on the Senators. I am too. But I do think that they're going to hang around. They're going to be competitive for a while. I think that youthful exuberance, and I think Guy Boucher will harness all that. I think he's going to do a better job. I see them, after the Zach Smith thing, being like the Las Vegas or the Vegas Golden Knights last year. We have something to prove to people. I'm not saying they're going to the Stanley Cup Finals, but I think that attitude is going to be in the locker room, and I think it's going to be kind of fun to watch and see what happens with these guys.
I think if you're talking about them being this year's Vegas or this year's Colorado or New Jersey, they need goaltending, and they need 920, 925 save percentage from Craig Anderson and Mike Conn. And if they get that, maybe we can talk about them being a playoff bubble team. But I think the big issue with this team, and we've talked about this a lot, are they weaker up front or are they weaker on the back end? My issue is on the back end, where I think I saw somebody point this out the other day. Their second highest paid defenseman this season will be Dion Phaneuf's hit on the salary cap. And when you think about that for a second, that's scary. You're going into the season with Thomas CHABOT, who last year at this time wasn't good enough to make your team. Now he's your #1 defenseman. That's really scary to me. I don't disagree. He will be a #1 defenseman at some point. I just don't think it's 2018.
Depending on whether they go with 7 or 8 defensemen, I think PK Subban will make more than the Senators' defense in terms of salary. So that it is intriguing. I think, you know, we look at this and there's a lot of holes here, like you say. Things have to sort themselves out. Maybe you guys, they said they rallied around this Zach Smith thing. Maybe there's more togetherness in the room. But before we wrap up here, and speaking of Zach Smith and the controversy that took part last week, another controversy perhaps here. On Saturday, the anthem, English only, with Montreal Canadiens in town. COO Nick Ruskowski sent a letter apologizing for this. Is this a big issue? Does the team need to stop having these off-ice distractions?
Well, it's not a big issue for me. I mean, there's 29 other rinks in the NHL that is English only anthem. I understand the bilingual aspect of Ottawa and of Montreal, and if that's getting people upset, well, I guess you've got to make sure you sing half the song in French. But to me, it's not a big deal.
I look at this from the perspective of, if you're the Ottawa Senators right now, you can ill afford to lose any fans. You've got beggars can't be choosers, so to speak. So I look at this and say, look, if you're going to irritate, and even if Donnie says, even if it's a small minority, you're not sitting in a position where you can irritate a small minority of your fans. So it was a misstep, and these guys, I don't know what it is, they're a magnet for missteps and controversy in the last 18 months. It's played out like this, and it just feels like that dark cloud. It's not as black as it was 6 weeks ago, but I still say it's dark, dark gray.
Well, they need fans. They need a better defense. They need better goaltending. They need to see some spark up front. Other than that, we look at this. It's going to be question marks all over this team. They're going to have to prove a lot of things to a lot of people. Thanks very much for joining us for another edition. We'll see you next time.